terminated at Terminal 1 at one of the busiest airports in North America, Toronto Pearson Airport. There's been a police shooting with multiple shots fired. A man was shot and killed. The Special Investigations Unit is investigating. They always get called in whenever there's a police shooting. Hi, my name is Ross McLean. I'm a former law enforcement officer, close protection specialist, security specialist to Fortune 50 companies, as well as looking after some of the most secure places on earth. I want to take you sort of behind the scenes or look at what takes place with a police shooting like this. So let's get started this way. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm watching my social media feed. Up it comes. Shooting at Pearson Airport. One or two pictures from the scenes come up. All the news media starts picking it up. Then my phone rings. It's from a national broadcaster. They call me up and they say, Ross, can we get you on the air? We want you to comment on the shooting at Pearson Airport. I tell them, I'd be glad to talk to you about it, but we sure don't know too much at the time. Let me get a look at this. Let me talk to you. So we let off the news, the national news at 9 o'clock, talking about this shooting. Let's see how this interview went, and I'll fill you in on more afterwards. This is how it all rolls out from my end. Watch this.
We begin with breaking news from Canada's busiest airport. A man was shot this morning by a police officer outside one of the departure terminals at Toronto's Pearson International. These images were captured by our news helicopter earlier this morning. Police confirming a short time ago that an adult man was shot. Police have not confirmed his status. They say the officer was not hurt. Investigators from the province's police watchdog have been dispatched, as is customary in a police-involved shooting. This man was at Pearson this morning when he heard several loud noises.
And we heard something to the effect of 8 to 10 loud popping noises, 8 to 12 loud popping noises from further down the terminal. I'm not sure what it was. I wasn't an eyewitness to what that was. There was a security guard next to me who said, wow, that sounded really concerning. What was that?
Police say this is an isolated incident and there is no threat to public safety. Travelers are being told to expect delays at the terminal and to check with Pearson for your flight status. I want to bring in Ross McLean now. He's a former Toronto police officer and security specialist. Ross, good morning. Good to see you. Can I begin by getting your reaction to this incident?
Well, in some ways, it's not surprising to me. We're seeing more and more shootings and more crimes involving guns going across the GTA in the Toronto area. And certainly with the advent, we've heard a lot of talk about international criminals that fly into Canada and Toronto to do home invasions. We have talks of cartels at the airport. And certainly to have a shooting at the airport is unusual and quite concerning.
It may, in a strange way, come as a relief to many that the shooting did not happen inside the terminal. It was outside of the terminal. The SIU is now involved. What will they be looking at?
So the most important thing for the SIU is the forensic evidence that's there. That tells the path of bullets, the distance for people, all the things they need to find out. Clearly, any CCTV in the airport will have massive amounts of CCTV for covering it. And also the officers' body cams. All the Peel Regional Police wear body cams. I don't know with that force, but with some forces, your body cam is activated as soon as you pull your gun from your holster. So there'll certainly be enough information for it. The one part I find interesting is that there was a report about 8 shots. That's quite a lot of shots that are going, which almost, I'll speculate, sounds to me like a return of gunfire sort of situation, but we'll wait to see as to why the police were taking down someone who was at departures going somewhere at the airport, conceivably, possibly.
Well, that was going to be my next question to you. Do you think that this started before the person arrived at the airport? Were police potentially in pursuit of this man?
We don't know, but my suspicions would lead towards an intelligence operation. That's where I would suspect that they were watching someone or looking for someone, and when they were making perhaps a chance to go out of the country, move in for an arrest or something happens and off go the guns. That's speculation on that part. But it is interesting that it's at the airport. Terminal 1 has a lot of flights down to the U.S., as you know, and certainly throughout Canada. And we have issues with international criminals. And the police take it seriously. And the response was almost immediate. Of course, there's a lot of police at the airport, but the response was within 30 seconds. So there'll be more to this story, I suspect. I just don't think it's someone having a beef over being told you can't park your car here, move along, go to the long-term parking.
Yeah, it's early moments for sure. And just a final thought from you on police at Pearson. For people who are watching and wondering, are there always, Ross, Toronto police patrolling? Talk to us about the levels of security at the airport.
It's Peel Police. They're involved with all the intelligence agencies. They have to run an exercise at least once a year, which you hear about and you guys report on your news channel, where they simulate all sorts of incidences that the police would have to respond to. So they're very well trained and they'll be very quick to the response. But that being said, bullets flying in an airport is always a concern because there's other people around. And that's my concern with the level of gunplay that's going on in this city. It's too much.
Ross McLean, thank you so much.
The SIU will get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and we'll be waiting to hear from them. Hopefully we'll hear something from some officials this morning. We do appreciate talking to you in the meantime, Ross McLean.
So this is how the call comes in. This is how it starts. We don't know much. More starts to unravel. But of course, as former law enforcement, I have a bit of an idea about how the police approach these sort of things, these shootings, and what to look for. And that's what I'm going to take you through in this video. One of the first things I like to do is go out to the scene whenever I'm investigating a crime or a police shooting, something like that. So I decided to go for a roll out to Pearson Airport afterwards to see what I could find there, just to really look at the circumstances of what was going on. Because as I said in my TV interview, very strange that somebody's going to get in a fight and a shootout at an airport over just a parking spot. What more was there to it? Well, let's look and see how this breaks out. Going out for a drive out to Pearson Airport, Terminal 1, where the police shot a man just a little while ago. A dramatic daytime early morning shootout at Terminal 1. You know, it's interesting as to how this call would have developed. The reporting we're getting is that somebody knew about a dispute going in the car, called the police. The police came to attend to deal with the dispute. They arrived on scene. There was 3 officers there. Did they know what they were dealing with when they got there? It's interesting. There's 3 people in the vehicle. The person who ends up getting shot was in the back by himself. Apparently quite a very heated dispute going on. The police were doing de-escalation. Now there's 3 police there. And at a certain point, so the information goes, the person produced a gun. And then he was shot multiple times by probably 2 police officers, is the evidence that we have so far, or the information we have so far. What I think is going to be interesting is, you know, when you're a police officer and you're rolling on a call like that, what kind of information do you have? Did they know the type of person that they were dealing with? This guy's got a long criminal record, 3 different gun prohibitions, been involved in a stabbing and a shooting at a different time. He was on the high-risk offenders registry. So the question is, when the police rolled up, did they know what they were dealing with? You know, it's quite possible from a variety of factors. Number one, if somebody in the car called in the dispute, would they have done that knowing that they got Buddy in the car who's on the high-risk registry offense and he's carrying a gun? Would he have been very happy that someone called the police to come deal with them at the airport? What came out the following day is who this man was who was involved in the shooting. And he was a bit of a bad character. 30-year-old Daniel Dolan, who had a long criminal record of violence. He had 3 gun prohibitions on him. He'd been involved in a stabbing before and another shooting. He was on sort of the most riskiest criminal list for the police. So police were well aware of this guy. You know, when I saw this information come out, I thought that was even more interesting, because here you have a guy who multiple times has been involved with weapons, shooting them, firing them, stabbing them, involved with the police, and those are just the highlights that became public the day afterwards. So did the police know what they were getting into with him? Here, I'm going to take you through a bit of my thoughts as to what I think the police would have been thinking when they were rolling out there, when I rolled out towards Pearson Airport. You can hear it here. Yeah, so I don't think the bad guy would have been very happy to know that the police were coming when you were at the airport. Now, supposedly the information is that this guy was also going on a trip somewhere, going to leave the country. So I'm going to posit a few things here for you as to the way the police look at something like this when they get the call. Number one, when the call comes in, they're going to get a complainant. They'll run the complainant, get their name, get their date of birth if they can get it. That would come back with, of course, any associations potentially that person might have had with this person who's on the high-risk registry. They may have gotten the license plate off the person. I'm sitting in my car at pole number 15. This is the license plate. This is the car. They would have had the car, maybe the plate run beforehand when they got there. So did the police know that they were rolling up on a situation where there might have been someone who had all these weapons offenses before, who was violent and dangerous and to some degree even mentally ill? Certainly when the police got there, body cams are activated, dash cams are on there. They would have called in the plate at that time. They would have gotten the information off everybody in the car, set that information in. So at some point, they knew what they were dealing with. 3 officers, probably one doing the negotiations or the de-escalation. The other 2 officers are there standing tactically and well positioned, which I think I'll show you a little bit later. We show a picture as to where the bullets came out of the Glock. You know, we'll get a look at where the bullets ejected out of the Glocks to know where the other police were standing, probably in a position where they'd be in a position to use their weapons if they needed them. So that's the interesting part. I mean, police are usually pretty good at sizing people up when they come up on them. They pick up on the body language, the attitude, the clothes, tattoos. Certainly, if someone's got prison tattoos, it sort of tells you something as well. So at some point they knew what they were dealing with, and when that gun came out, the police were very quick to respond. You know, there's another possibility for this one. This guy was so dangerous, the police may have been watching him the whole time anyways. And when he was making a move to go to the airport, to leave the country, maybe the police did not want him to leave the country. So it's quite possible intelligence or someone else may have had a beat on this guy. When they got to the airport, they decided to intervene, see what was going on. This guy produced his gun. Now don't forget, Pearson International Airport has got a lot of trouble with crime. We had the big gold heist there a little while ago, huge gold heist taken by, inside job on the gold heist for the money going out on that one. We also have the issue of criminal gangs that come up from South America. And they come up here to do carjackings, home invasions. They rob, they steal, then they go, and they go back to South America. We also have the issue with the criminal cartels. Of course, the Mexican cartels. They come up. Where do you think they get off? They get off at the Toronto International Airport when they're coming to Toronto. We've certainly had Asian organized crime in and out of Toronto, some of the biggest drug kingpins in the world come in and out of Toronto. So was this guy in any way related at a low level or something to this? Was he involved in some of this work? Is that why maybe he might have been being watched? If he was being watched, I don't know. Many officers have had in their careers, they'll be out on the road and they'll get a call from the radio saying, I want you to pull this car over, but be very careful. Gather as much information as you can. It's for intelligence. Don't worry, they're in the neighborhood. I was out one time, we were doing a spot check on cars for drinking and driving, and I see my partner, there's like 5 of us at the spot check, he's a little bit further down the road. He waves a car over. This car pulls over, goes slow, but keeps on driving slowly, then actually turns a corner and goes about 25 yards down a corner where it finally stops. It comes to rest. And my partner is walking up beside it there. Meanwhile, my radio starts going off. It's intelligence. They're calling saying, get that officer, tell him to let that car go, don't engage the car. The car's being followed, we're on it. Get him away from there, it's basically dangerous. So I went to my friend. He was just walking up to the car window. I yelled at him, hey, Steve, come on, we got to call. It's important, we got to go. You got to come now. And he just turned around and walked away and told them they could go. So who knows what happened after that. Anyways, I'm going to take a look at the airport, see what's going on out there. It's always good to go to the scene to see what's happening. Very unfortunate, tough on police, but I'm glad they were able to respond and that they all went home at the end of the night. We'll find out more later. When the police don't know when they're rolling up on, there can be more and more problems. It reminds me of a shooting that took place back in 2015 in Toronto, a police-involved shooting. The police get a call from their dispatch to go to an apartment building. There's a man with a hammer who's threatening to attack and threatening to kill people inside. The information the police had, speaking to the dispatchers, some women were in their apartment. They claimed there was a man at the door hitting the door with a hammer, saying that he was going to kill them. This is the info the police had when they rolled up. Now, subsequently, when they got there, they got up onto, I believe it was the 3rd floor. The man with the hammer came after them, and the police shot him dead. Now, once again, the SIU is brought in to look at this, but what was missing from this police radio call? I was at the scene looking at the buildings. There was a series of, 4 or so low-rise, 3, 4, 5-story yellow brick buildings, the kind with stairs that walk up the front. I didn't notice an elevator that was in them. And they're very narrow stairs as well, too. So when you get a call like this and you've got 2 police officers getting out of the car, responding, going up the stairs, hard to fit 2 of them into the stairwell at the same time a lot of the times for doing it. They got up to the 3rd floor, and here was this man who came running at them with a hammer. They told him to stop and drop the hammer. He didn't. They shot, and they killed him. So I went in, I looked at the scene. I went up the stairs and I saw that, man, this was tight. There's no way the police were turning around and getting back out quickly. You can't turn your back on a guy with a hammer going downstairs. He could jump and the claw would be in your skull before you know it. It's just a no-can-do. And the man did not respond to the calls. But here's the information I believe the police didn't have that I found after nosing around a little bit. All of those apartment buildings down there, they were all housing people with mental health problems who were essentially, let's say, outpatients with mental health problems, subsidized apartments, and they were in all the apartments. I mean, essentially, the police were walking into a mental health facility with people with varying degrees of massive problems, mental health problems. Now, the police didn't know this when they were rolling into the call. Had they known it, they might have responded differently with more officers. They might have been more cautious with their gun or some other such thing, knowing what they're rolling up upon. So when the police don't get the right dispatch information, it's a real problem. Not many people know this. What you can do if you have an incident at a place, let's say you're a woman at home who's worried about domestic violence, you've had domestic violence before, you can call the police and tell them, go to the communications place, and tell them for your address you want a note put down there that there's domestic violence problems at the house. So that way when the police get the call, the dispatch looks it in, they look up the address, it says on there what the concerns are at the property. Now, I've done this numerous times in my career. I used to protect a very, very highly valuable place where lots of value goods were stored very discreetly, but there was armed security that was inside of the location. So I made sure that there was a note on the address for that building that police were aware when they were coming in there would be armed security there, so people wouldn't get involved in seeing a gun, shooting, not knowing what's going on for doing something. So in this case, what information did the police have about this guy? I'm going to suspect that they had some information at some point that they were dealing with a potentially pretty bad guy. Now, let me take you to the airport and show you what I saw when I walked at the scene. As I predicted, there was lots of CCTV. In fact, a CCTV camera right above where the shooting took place. Watch this. So it can get quite busy out here at the airport. Quite dangerous at times too, based on all the different characters that are coming walking through. Lots of security, but security is kind of hard to deal with a gun, but it's becoming more and more the way that things are in Toronto, in the GTA. Private security dealing with armed people and police. We're at a location at Pearson Airport where the shooting took place. Lots of police out here. Strange that it happened out here. We'll have to see what more truth comes out of this, if anything, about all of the circumstances around this police shooting. CCTV video right up there. Shooting took place right down here. This is the last takeoff lane here, and it's heading for Air Portugal. The destinations from here. Unknown if that's where the victim may have been intending to fly. One of the things I like to do if I go to a shooting scene, particularly if it's a police-involved shooting, if I can, is I like to go stand in the position where the officers likely were when they were shooting or where they shot from, which is what I did in this situation. And here's what I found when I looked at what the police were looking at, because when you hear a shooting at an airport, all you think about is thousands of people at an airport. It's crowded. Where are the bullets going? Where are they going to hit? And every police officer would be scared if they were discharging their gun in that place. But let's see what I found when I stood where the police officer stood. So this would have been the vantage point that the officer was shooting at. It would have taken place right here, shooting that way, open space down there, not as many people, so reasonably safe place if you're going to have to shoot. Good job. So the potentially good thing here is the officers, there was 3 of them, there was probably 1 doing negotiation with the people in the car, 2 at the back. When they became aware that they might have somebody very dangerous in the car, the other 2 might have been quite ready to be able to respond had a gun come out, and 1 did. Now, the good thing here, if you're going to be shooting, there wasn't a lot of people to hit. There was open fields going on back out to the airport. There was metal carts there. There wasn't a whole lot of people because it was at the end of the airport. So I'm sure the police had this in their considerations before they shot. I know I was involved in a shoot, don't shoot guy one time in a downtown busy city. And I'm sitting there and as I had my gun out and I was considering shooting, I'm thinking, if I shoot this way, I might kill a bank vice president out there walking down the street who's on lunch. If I shoot over here, it might hit the ground and come across and hit someone over there. How can I aim my gun so if it misses, the bullet goes somewhere, I'm not going to hurt somebody? These are the considerations that you try to get through your mind before you have to shoot. And hopefully you have enough time to make those considerations. In this case, we don't know how much time was there. Now, one of the important things I mentioned here was for the investigation with the SIU. They're going to have that CCTV camera that was right above. I imagine it was trained on the shooting the whole time and what was going on, so they'll have excellent records there. The body cams of the police, they come on with many forces. I don't know that Peels does this. I assume that they do. As soon as someone pulls their gun, those cameras are on. I would have suspected the police might have had them on from the time that they got there. Now, it looks like the police may have been parked in the next other side of the island that's there, but typically they would also position their cars so the dash cams on their car could also capture what's going on. I don't know that we have any dash cams here or not for that. That we'll have to see. But now for the surprise that I found out when I got to the scene as to what was going on. I mean, and I think we're still going to find there's more to this. All the info hasn't come out yet. But how this all started was the car came up, rolled up, stopped right at the end. By the way, wherever this guy was departing for, it was Air Portugal that was out there, and a U.S. departure customs place was just inside that end as well, for wherever he was going. But why on earth would you sit there and have an argument so bad that the police had to show up? Who actually called the police? Well, it turns out I was able to get some information when I was there. The car was waiting too long, so the security came up. When security came up and said, hey, you have to go. You can't just wait here. You have to keep moving. Everybody knows they chase you off at the airport. They refused to go. They came back and asked again. The arguing was going on in the front of the car between what apparently may have been a husband and wife with the bad guy in the back seat, unknown how much he was involved in the argument. They came back again and asked him to leave. They wouldn't go, so they escalated it. The next level up from the private security at Pearson Airport is something they call the public safety security that are there. Now, they're not armed, but they are better trained. They're made to respond for health issues and those sort of things. They came out. They were called over to make it. And they went over and said, hey, you got to leave. You can't stay here. You're not allowed to stop here. You got to go. The arguing continued, and they would not go. And this public safety person could not get them to go. So the call was put into the police. Now, this is kind of crazy if you ask me. You're rolling up to the airport, you have a gun on you, you're looking at getting on a plane, and you're arguing to the point that you don't think you're going to attract attention and something might happen. Last place you want to be caught with a gun where they're kind of looking for them is out at airports. But for some reason, this car would not move, despite the fact at least 3 security people came up to it. This is when the police became involved. They apparently rolled up. I'm going to assume that one of them took part in doing the de-escalation work, trying to calm people down. What they normally try to do at that point is separate people, or at least get the people arguing, not looking at each other. One officer might talk to you over here, another over there, so they're not looking and they're not fighting. But somehow this one continued. They weren't able to de-escalate it, and the guy got out of the back seat. Was he ordered out? We don't know, but he produced a handgun at some point, and then the shots were fired. I mean, that's how quick it can happen. Now, is it still possible that the police knew what they were dealing with in advance with this guy? There's big drug problems in Canada with Mexican cartels, Asian gangs, fentanyl, car fentanyl. This guy was a long-term criminal. I don't know all about his background, if he was involved in drugs before or whatnot. But was there some argument about who was leaving, who was paying, the gun was going? There was some big argument, big enough that it went this stupid till the shooting took place. So there may still be more information to come as to what the argument was about. Where was he flying to? Was he planning on taking that gun through the airport somehow? Did he have someone who would get the gun through the airport for him? It's unknown. These are things we still need to find out. That being said, there's one bad guy whose karma came home to roost, and the police are all going home at the end of the day. So that's a bit of an idea about what police can expect when they roll up on calls, and it's not always as simple as what it first appears. My name is Ross McLean. This is the McLean Chronicles. If you enjoy this sort of insights and the help that I try to bring you on a wide variety of topics, I get involved in a lot of different things. Please subscribe, follow, give me a comment. I'd like to hear what you like about this or anything else you might have to say. For now, that's it for now. See you next video. Be safe.